Russia has confirmed the demise of Yevgeny Prigozhin, and they've also denied that they take down the aircraft, the Embraer 600, with a missile that had any connection with it. They've denied this, and our Pentagon says no, there's no evidence whatever they have of a missile being used to take down the Embraer 600. Yet there are channels within the Wagner group and supposedly a video out there that shows otherwise. I don't know. I've not seen it. But there's also suggestions that Prigozhin is still among us. And is he, if he is not, the questions range from did Vladimir Putin sign his own death warrant to did he actually trade peace at home for a cheaper mercenary group and military influence abroad. So, what is really cooking with this occasion, the alleged demise of Prigozhin? What does it mean going forward? And what does it mean for us as Americans and preppers and such and so forth? Well, just kind of recap, as you know, that Embraer 600 went down on a flight from St. Petersburg to Moscow. And Prigozhin was on the manifest list. Now, that doesn't mean he actually would fly on it because he probably knows he was a target. And it's suggested that he knew to stay away from high windows in high rise buildings. But maybe he still had to take a plane occasionally. But if he was really smart, he would have sent somebody else. And allegations have been made that, in fact, he used a body double. That's allegations. And it is interesting that another Embraer 600 took off not too long after the first one. Was Prigozhin actually on the second flight? Was Prigozhin on the first flight? We don't know yet. He might show up. And then again, maybe if he is still alive, he might stay undercover for some time because he would know that he's a target. Should that be the case? Could it be the case that that plane was actually taken down by intention? Now, just before this happened, there was a lot of pundits saying, well, Prigozhin won't last. Putin's going to go after him again. And so it kind of fits within the context. Now, from the side of Belarus, you know, a lot of the Wagner group have left Belarus because they claimed they weren't paid. And some of them, though, apparently are still there. And Lukashenko is actually claiming, oh, I've still got the Wagner group here. Well, whether he does or doesn't, he needs the Wagner group because the Belarusian military is nothing to brag about. They're pretty weak, pretty ill-trained, ill-equipped. And now Poland's running up the border. He wants to at least be able to bluff to claim that he's got somebody at that border. And who knows, maybe he actually does. And there was a lot of allegations that the Wagner group was trying to penetrate the border to do special operations on the other side. And so who knows what the case is there. The thing is that Vladimir Putin may be actually facing a Wagner rebellion because some Wagner group members claim they wanted to take revenge, that there might be a rebellion. And a DIA source here in the United States actually came out and said that Putin would take out a lot of the key Wagner people within a 72-hour period. To prevent that, anybody that was deemed to be a potential threat, and they got a security force here that I think must think of threats afoot. Pardon me, I am in the area of Snowflake, Arizona, at a friend's house, and I'm doing this video from there, from his deck. Hope you enjoy the scenery here today. But let's go on and talk about Prigozhin. So, will there be a rebellion? Could it replace Putin? Would it end the war? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. And if there's an attempted rebellion, it'll probably get put down real fast. Like I said, they're apparently already targeting people that might try to stage such an event. But what it means in the long run is that Putin has lost the tip of the spear. It was the Wagner group that made the key differences for Russia in the Ukraine war. They outshined the Russian military quite a bit. They were hardcore, rugged warriors, military professionals, or really warriors, you might say. They were tough. They were real tough. And that may be why it's possible that Prigozhin was right, that maybe some of the military did starve them out of it because maybe they were afraid of the Wagner, or at least afraid of being showed up by the Wagner, of outperforming them. As you know, it took the Wagner group to actually take Bakhmut in the Donbass region. And so that was a big feather in the cap of Prigozhin, but Prigozhin said, "Hey, uh, Shogu and the guys upstairs weren't giving me the supplies I needed from the Russian military," and this whole coup was allegedly directed toward the Russian military. So, and he's hoping that that wasn't, paint him against Putin. But most people did see it as a challenge to Putin, regardless of whatever claims were made. So, in the long term, they've lost the tip of the spear, but they've lost something else. Supposedly, they're taking over the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group has no longer the heavy military equipment that they once had. They probably lost some members, although they had been recruiting even after the coup attempt or whatever you want to call it. Really wasn't a coup; it was a mutiny of sorts. But even after that, they continued recruiting personnel until maybe just very recently. They and maybe they still are, but the head gone, if he's gone, how will they reorganize? What will happen to them? Will they have the same sense of urgency? Typically mercenaries follow whoever pays them. But it seems that there was a certain popularity, a cult of personality here. And here's the other thing: what the Wagner Group was doing in Africa and other places, like mainly Africa, they were going in and sending in their mercenaries at pennies on the dollar compared to what the United States spends on our so-called mercenaries. We used to use that company called Black Water that changed their name to whatever they changed it to. So we have a history of, in the United States of doing that too, using the same kind of forces, be it good or bad. And I would kind of think it's probably not exactly good. And so you got to raise an eyebrow anytime some operation like that is used and wonder what's the dubious questionable manner of what's going down here. But they were able to operate much cheaper than what America operates their mercenary forces. So, in a sense, Putin has lost the tip of the spear and a affordable, cheap means of international military force, or whatever you want to call it, of willpower, which may be a good thing, but it's been probably, at least from the Western perspective, is a good thing. But guys, in the long run, it might mean that Putin's going to have a lot harder time persecuting the war in Ukraine. This could actually translate into him wanting to use nukes, tactical nukes, even more than ever, because he's got less options. His options are going down for what he can have, and Russia's being hit. The Ukrainians are now firing S-200 missiles, which were designed to be Soviet Union air defense missiles, into Moscow. And they're sending lots of drones into Moscow and Crimea. So the pressure on Russia is really ratcheting it up, and their military just hasn't stood up to the level that one would think they could. But then neither has the Ukrainian military. U.S. I'll talk about that maybe more tonight. U.S. military forces are really criticizing Ukraine for not focusing on one or two specific areas and driving through the Russian defenses and making some headway. Instead, the Ukrainians want to spread their forces out. In a sense, Ukraine has been committing the same mistakes that Russia committed coming in. That's an oversimplification. I may hit General Ken Krasniak back on to delve more into that in a more complex manner. He is an expert in these areas, so we may consult with him in the near future. I've just started trading a little email with him on this question, and he's got a more complex answer, but just into a simple level, that's pretty much it. So what does this mean in the long run? It could mean that Putin would falter, but more likely, I'm expecting, the grind of this war just to continue, and it may indeed lead to the pressures of using tactical nukes. So watch out, guys. If you're not prepping, prep. I seriously urge you to prep and check out my links to my Patriot Supply. Thank y'all for watching. And with that, I want to say, Greg out.